Hey guys, it's Miss Smith again. We are going to be classifying triangles and quadrilaterals. Now, a lot of this stuff you probably already know from this year, and a lot of it's review from last year. So, filling in our notes, we want to know what a polygon is. Okay, polygon is a closed shape with 3 or more sides. Okay, now when we think about this, clearly 2 sides don't make a shape, does it? Okay, whoops, these need to be connected. So we have to have 3 or more sides to, first of all, make a triangle, and then start getting into all of our quadrilaterals, which is a 4-sided closed figure. See, all these lines should be closed. Okay, so first we're going to do triangle attributes. Ugh, can't talk. Okay, so what's another word for attribute? Because when I look at this, attribute might be a big word to you. So triangle attributes, what does that mean? Okay, it means characteristics. Okay, so another word for attribute is saying what is your characteristic? Okay, my characteristic is I have blonde hair, and I'm 5'7". Your characteristic might be I'm 13 and a male, or whatever. So characteristics just describe what triangles are. Okay, the first thing we know about a triangle, it is how many sides does it have? Okay, 3. Okay, so it is a 3-sided figure, which we have one up here. Okay, and what do all the angles add up to? This is review from last year. Okay, all the angles add up to 180 degrees. Okay, all right, next. First, I kind of wanted to give you an overview of everything we're talking about. Okay, a 3-sided figure, number of sides, okay? 3-sided figure is what we're going to talk about the first half of this video, which is a triangle. Okay, and these are all polygons. Every single one of these right here is a polygon. Okay, second part of the video is we're going to talk about quadrilaterals. So here is the second part of our video, is quadrilaterals. And we have a few of those. Okay, then it goes on to do 5-sided figure, which is a pentagon. 6-sided, hexagon, heptagon, octagon, nonagon, decagon, and I've said this much, but 12-sided figure. Okay, so we're only focusing on 3- and 4-sided figures today. Okay, the first thing that we need to do is we need to define how to classify triangles. Okay, so we can classify triangles by their sides. We classify triangles by their sides and by their angles. Okay, sometimes I tell kids, and this might help a little bit, but sometimes I compare this to a name. Okay, in the United States, most people have 3 names. Okay, first name, middle name, last name. So my first name is Lexi, my last name is Smith. Okay, so when we classify triangles, they have 2 names. Okay, first and last name. Okay, their first name is going to be their sides. Their last name is going to be by their angles. So when we look at an equilateral triangle, we know that all sides are congruent. Okay, all sides are congruent. In an equilateral triangle, that means all of the angles are congruent. So what does a triangle equal up to? 180. So 60 plus 60 plus 60 gives you 180. So this is an equilateral triangle, and this is determined by the sides. Now don't forget your tick marks mean that each of these sides are equivalent. Okay, you have to have tick marks. You can't do it by your eyes, because sometimes your eyes can trick you a little bit. Okay, isosceles. What does isosceles mean? Okay, 2 sides are congruent or equal. Okay, congruent means equal. So we know that when we look at an isosceles, the first name of a triangle is going to be an isosceles. Then we're going to name it by the angles. So isosceles we know has 2 sides equivalent, which are these 2 because they have 1 tick mark. Okay? Now the last one is scalene. This is what you learned in 6th grade. So the last one is scalene, which no sides are congruent. Okay? We know that because we're looking at the tick marks. Okay? So no tick mark is equivalent, so that means that it is scalene. Okay? Let's go by the last name. So we did the first name, which in my case would be Lexi. Now let's determine what their last name is by the angles. Okay, we kind of already did a 60, 60, 60. What would their first name be? Equilateral. And then what kind of sides to all, what is a 60-degree angle? Is it acute, obtuse, or right. Okay, we're going to go with acute. Okay, acute is less than 90 degrees, so acute angles means all angles are acute. Okay, all angles are acute. And you'll learn here in a second, if one is obtuse, then it's got to be obtuse. So, and these all angles are acute. Okay, obtuse. Okay, that means only one can be obtuse for it to be called an obtuse triangle, okay? So in this case, let's look at the sides. Let's kind of grasp what we learned earlier. What kind of triangle would this be? Okay, no sides are equal, so it's going to be a scalene. So it's going to be a scalene obtuse triangle, okay? So one of these is larger than 90, so that's why it has to be an obtuse triangle, okay? So just one has to be obtuse for it to be called obtuse, okay? Now, what do you think this one's going to be according to its angle that we see, okay? If you see this right angle, or you know one of the angles is 90 degrees, then it's going to be a right triangle. So that means one right triangle, okay? Only one has to be 90 for it to be called a right. Okay, let's do some examples real fast. Okay, let's go back here. I'm going to do some examples down here just real fast with you, okay? What if I had a triangle and I knew one side was right? According to my tick marks, let's do a first and last name. This would be a right, according to its angles. First name right, last name isosceles. Okay, because two of the sides are equivalent. Okay? What if I gave you one that looks like this? Okay, and you know this angle is obtuse. Okay, so it would be obtuse. And then of course we need to know what the sides are. Say this side has 3 tick marks, this side has 2, and this side has 1. What would this be called? Obtuse scalene. Okay? Those are just 2 examples of what you might see and how you can name them by their first and last name according to their angles and their sides. Okay, now let's go to quadrilaterals, the second part of our video. Okay, let's go over polygon again. Polygon is a closed shape with what? 3 or more sides. Very good. Okay, want to make sure we know a polygon is everything from 1 or 3-sided to, you know, any number you want to go up to. Okay. Okay. Quadrilateral attributes is, what does quad mean? Okay. Remember we talked about quadrants for a graph. Okay. So quad would mean 4. So what do you think quadrilateral means? Okay. It would mean a 4-sided figure. All right. Now, all angles need to add up. You learned this in 6th grade. All angles need to add up to 360 degrees. Double what a triangle would equal up to. Okay? So we need to remember how much degrees add up to, because some of our questions can be tricky with that. Okay. Now, I've done a graphic organizer for this because we're going to be doing graphic organizers in class the next day for a matching activity, so I want to make sure we know how to do this part. Okay. First things first. Let's go by, what do these shapes look like? Okay? First of all, no, let's start with the easiest one. Let's go here. What is this shape? Okay, you probably learned this in 2nd grade. All sides are equal. And all angles are 90 degrees. Okay? What shape is this? Very good. Square. Okay, you've learned this in like 3rd grade. So we should know what a square is and all the characteristics of a square. Okay, 4 congruent sides, 4 congruent angles. Okay, now we're going to talk about let's go to something we know looks. Okay, what about this one? Okay, we know these sides are congruent, and we know this side's congruent to this, and all angles are 90 degrees. So this would be called a rectangle. Okay, this is all too easy stuff. I shouldn't even be going over with you, but you need to know these characteristics. Okay, what about these? Okay, they look kind of slanted to me. They look like a slanted rectangle. Do we remember what these are called? Okay, parallelogram. Okay, a parallelogram I always remember as It's a slanted rectangle. So it kind of looks like a rectangle, but it looks like it's slanted a little bit. So we know these sides are equivalent, and these sides are equivalent, or these sides are congruent. So opposite sides are congruent, and opposite angles are congruent. Okay, these are called our angle tick marks. So if you see these little curved lines that are inside, which I'm not doing a very good job, these are equivalent, and these are equivalent. Okay, and we'll go over that in detail later. Okay, this one kind of looks like a diamond. Okay, I'm going to tell you all sides are equal, and opposite angles are equal. So this angle would be equivalent to this angle. This angle would be equivalent to this angle. So what do we call a slanted, all sides are equal, so it would be a slanted square. What do we call a slanted square? Okay, very good. I hope you remember. We called this a rhombus. Okay, so therefore, we know that a rhombus is a slanted square, so that means it changes its angles, and we're going to go over that in detail later. Okay, a rectangle is a parallelogram is a slanted rectangle. Now, these are just random guys, okay? They have four sides, but we don't have a specific name for these types. So these types are just, random shapes that have four sides, and we do call them a quadrilateral because they're four-sided, okay? All these over here, the four over here, have specific attributes or characteristics. Okay, so we have one left, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you this is a trapezoid. Okay, trapezoid kind of looks like a roof to your house, or sometimes this can be called an isosceles trapezoid because those sides are equal, and sometimes you'll see a right trapezoid because this side would be right, or these two sides would be right, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. Okay, so you could see these either way. This has one set of parallel sides. Okay, these two sides that I marked are not parallel, so you only have one set or pair, which means a pair of socks. You have two in a pair, so it has one pair or one set of parallel lines. Okay, bear with me, we're almost done. Alright, now we're going to go specifically, we kind of just did it briefly over there, but we're going to go specifically into what we need to know about these, because it seems pretty easy right now, like you would know it, but when we start doing questions in class, the questions can be hard. So we need to definitely know these, by memory. Okay, what do we know about a rectangle? Opposite sides are what? Opposite sides are congruent. Okay, opposite sides are congruent. Okay, congruent means equal. So we know this side equals this side, and this side is the same length as this side. Okay, but what do we know about the angles? All angles are what? This shows that these are all 90-degree angles. Okay, and then opposite sides, of course, are parallel because you have parallel sides going this way, parallel side, parallel side, parallel side. So opposite sides parallel. Okay, I think I spelled that right. Hopefully, nope. This is an A. Okay, next one, square. Let's go through this fast. Okay, all sides are what? Congruent or equal or equivalent. All sides are congruent. Okay, blank angles are right. How many angles on here are right? All of the angles. So all four angles are right angles, or we also can call that 90-degree angles. Okay, and again, opposite sides are what? Opposite sides are parallel. Okay. Parallel, guys, if you don't know, parallel means that the lines never cross each other. Perpendicular mean that it makes a right angle. Okay, so parallel just means that they never cross each other. Okay? Okay, let's go to a parallelogram. Parallelogram is a slanted rectangle, so we know opposite what? Are equal. Opposite sides are equal or congruent. Okay? And opposite sides are parallel. Okay, one definition I forgot to do right here is a very important one. Okay, opposite angles are congruent. All right, since we slanted it, let's put opposite angles and put an equal sign. So since we slanted it, are they going to be right like a rectangle anymore? No. Okay, so if this side is, I'm just making this up, if this side's 45 degrees, then this side has to be 45 degrees. Okay. So opposite angles are equal. So whatever this side equals the same. Okay? So opposite angles are equal. Okay? The same thing on a rhombus. opposite angles are equivalent. Okay? So these are kind of tick marks for angles here. So we know that these two are equivalent and these two are equivalent. So let's just go really fast. This is a slanted square, so we know all sides are equivalent. So all sides are equivalent or equal. We know opposite sides are parallel. And we know opposite angles are equal. Okay, a lot of kids forget the word opposite. It means, you know, diagonally these are equal. It doesn't mean everything is equal. So make sure you always know opposite angles, which means opposite are equal. Okay? Now, trapezoid. The main thing we need to know about a trapezoid is it's four-sided and it only has one pair of opposite sides parallel. So that means this side's parallel, this side, which is a pair. This is parallel, this is parallel. So opposite sides are parallel. Okay, guys. Now, I probably am going to go over more in class about this. This is kind of a chart to help you determine, you know, what kind of shape is what. So, does it have four right angles? If your answer is yes, then you need to ask yourself, are all the sides the same length? If it's yes, then it's a square. So I think we're going to talk about this more in class, but I kind of want you to read this and see if you can get it. So this is kind of what we're going to do for the warm-up. So I want you to read it. And we're going to discuss this flow chart because when you start answering questions, it's really going to help you. Okay, guys, thank you for bearing with me, and I will see you in class tomorrow. Make sure you scroll down right now, answer the questions to your best of your ability because these are the kinds of questions that are kind of tough sometimes. So answer the questions and press submit. We will not believe you unless you press submit and answer the questions, and it is your responsibility. All right, guys, see you tomorrow.